Hello, my name is Yanis Athanasakis. Uh, this and I'm going to be talking about Cruising the Film, which starts Al Pacino, Paul Sorvino, and Karen Allen. Directed by William Friedrich, and it's about a detective going undercover in a BDSM scene. It's important to keep in mind the detective going undercover has a wife and seems to be married, though goes undercover after being asked if he has ever had any sexual relations with other men, which he answered no. Um, Treatment of LGBTQ plus people in the film is a large spectrum. At times it's respectful, shown as normal people, which they are, to horrendous, to addressing some issues and depicting some struggles that were real at the time. 1980s, it was a difficult time for the community, according to Seattle.gov. The article LGBT issues in the 1980s, building coalition and consensus in Seattle. A key aspect to this was a task force. A rebuttal to all this was a task force made by Mayor Royer, who could then be better informed about the important issues of plaguing bi and gay residents. They made it basically a gay task force, which was very beneficial at the time. But to the more important aspects of it all, what I'm arguing is originally, this was my argument, so keep that in mind. The film actually helped advance LGBTQ plus community issues forward and push them sort of to the mainstream, to the public eye. And the truth is, despite the damage this movie did to both people and the Pride movement with its portrayal of certain individuals, I believe the film showed an accurate representation of what some bi, gay, trans, or other people may encounter in the 1980s, and the risks that were involved in it. The film shows the dangers of the hookup culture certain scenes had, especially in the LGBTQ community, with how the murder operated and how people were getting sexually assaulted by police and then belittled or ignored. Similarly, in life, there were a couple of serial killers murdering people of those communities and not getting caught till years later. A prominent one that I have always kept in the back of my mind, only because I was afraid of beating up people after I learned this, was Jeffrey Dahmer, who, according to crimemuseum.org, even had one of his victims make it out to the police, only for Jeffrey to convince police that despite the victim's pleas for help to everyone and anyone nearby, that they were just boyfriends and he had a little bit too much to drink. They didn't run a background check that would have shown that Dahmer was a sex offender, and left the victim to his fate because they didn't want to deal with that community. These ties to how police were portrayed in the film. Since the starting of the film, they're portrayed as overworked and not having the time to deal with the proper case. The joke of them needing a confession to care about a murder investigation is rather early, showing them either lack of faith in the police or the workload they must be under. Another aspect of that film that actually helped the LGBTQ plus community is the long term, I believe, in the long term, I believe, it's also mentioned in the meathookcinema.com article, I Will Be Your Mirror, Frederick Cruising, 1980, where it portrays gay people as sexual beings. Considering how in the early 2000s to 2010s, depictions of gay people in media were the really nice neighbors that were a little bit nosy, not really sexual, or later when they would make marks to men, like construction workers were depicted to make to women, I think the film showed a lot more normalized hookup culture that is not only prevalent today, but also normalized between any other gender pairing. And beyond that, the film was the issue was the film was a horror slasher setup, and overall had a very bad second half. But there were some good aspects to the film that not only depicted homosexuality to the big screen, but it also showed that being as perfectly normal and acceptable. Um, there's scenes where the main character, who is a detective, is at their apartment, and a guy comes out, and they start chatting. It's perfectly normal, and there's no stigma. There's no tropes used. It's all very respectfully done. It is important to remember, however, that this film came out at a very different time, and it's not possible to fully know what people were going through, no matter reading it or anything else, to know exactly what it was like and how it affected people. That being said, and to add to the whole general conversation of I do believe it helped, is uh, independellin.co.uk had an article called Cruising, the Film of Fear and Hatred in the Village, where Frederick, the producer, gets asked a few questions when it's releasing to DVD, and they honestly say about how they depict those clubs and those scenes as I simply try to show it as I saw it. I did not try to alter it one way or another when it came to the sexual nature of the clubs and other scenes. Now, the reason why this sexual aspect of the film made me feel like I should mention how it benefited people in the community is because that sort of thing wasn't really shown, and even if it wasn't shown well or even attractively in main media at the time. And this kind of did. It looked rather good. Characters looked great. Lighting was wonderful. Interactions were great. Scenes had that sexual tension as they went that films trying to portray anything like this just lacked in one way or another. Um, it also kind of showed a very semi-accurate way of how people were treated, whether it be gay, trans, bi. In the early aspect of the film, they show them getting harassed by police, and when they go to report them, they are not taken seriously. They are told, hey, what are their badge numbers? I don't know, but here are their names. And I have their general description, and they just get brushed off and told no can do and just generally disrespected. The counter argument, though, to all this is quite simply that the damage was way too great. And, well, the main issues of the cruising film, and where the aspects of it spreading awareness and positivity, even having been serious warnings of the time, is that it distorts the view of the LGBTQ plus community in the public's eye at the time. According to New York Times, archived as Screen, Pacino stars in Friedrich's Cruising Another Country. The damage done comes in the main policeman changing during the film to eventually be like the killer, leaving the suggestion that people can change depending on their sexual experiences and discoveries, but also their partaking in the LGBTQ plus community can lead people to becoming killers, according to the movie. A large issue. The issue was large enough to cause protests, such as the ones of the New York Times reported. Protests call the film Cruising. The article distributed newspaper article July 26, 1971. The main reason was because the film was, according to the paper, allegedly anti-homosexual. This film was seen as capable of doing damage to the National Gay Task Force and was asked by Mayor Koch to withdraw the shooting permits for it, according to that article. According to meathookcinema.com article, I'll buy your mirror, Frederick Cruising, for how they portrayed bi and gay individuals and how the light shined upon them would not be completely positive. Furthermore, notes on film1.com's article in conversation with Gary Needleham contained aspects of documents from the time and other papers used in the protests themselves, as well as important questions and answer charts of why cruising would hurt the community. The first being very simply stated, why is this film objectionable, which was answered promptly with, it represents a clear and present danger to gay people. It perpetrates the myth that we are violent, prone, and obsessed with sex, as well as other issues. Although I disagree, if you're watching the film, I can clearly see why that is stated. Even one of the victims that are murdered at the beginning of the film are all too into it in a way that in which the killer kills them, and it doesn't help that case at all. Beyond that, looking at NPS.gov article Pride in the 1980 shows the issue at hand with Barry Sanders Barry Sanders quoted saying, "People wanted gay men to be swishy hairdressers, drag queens, or sadistic murderers, not the boy next door." The focus is dangerous. Films like Cruising did not help that perception at all. Now, do I believe my argument holds up in comparison? Quite honestly, no. I think, given the time period and the general consensus as well as the material covered, I think this film was rightfully protest. If the film ended any other way, with it being a proper detective film, because there are some aspects of, I forgot what I wrote, I can't find it sadly, but the movie had a lot of themes that we have recently discussed, such as, this is going to be slightly longer than I wanted to be, but German Expressionism, with optical effects and camera angles that aren't really lined up right, as well as large shadows in the both clubs and private areas. And there's even mirror work that they do where some things are revealed in the mirror happening, like the killer having intercourse with their victim in the first 10 minutes. It's all very well done. Sorry, I have to now switch back. I don't have a computer here, so I'm doing what I can with what I have. So I don't believe my argument wins in this scenario. After research and looking into it, I believe that it was right to say that it was protested for the right reasons, and the controversy was very much accurate. Beyond that, and why it all matters to me in any way, shape, or form is, well, I sort of have a preference, you know? We all live our lives, and we all like what we like in life. And so to see the film, I kind of had a very big journey on it.